to a Sunday edition of Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with Adam Littlefield, a technician from the Refresh Computers Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computers Superstore by calling that free tech support hotline, 407-478-8200, or of course you can always leave an open mic inside the WDBO app. Don't forget to check out the website over at refreshcomputers.net, or you can stop in at the Refresh Computers Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434. That's 3.5 miles east of I-4. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. And now, for the man himself, Adam Littlefield.
Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you, everybody, for tuning into this Sunday edition of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. My name is Adam Littlefield. I'm one of the technicians over at the Refresh Computers Superstore. If you're listening on Sunday morning, I'm sorry to say we are not open today. We are closed on Sundays. Our store hours are 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. So if you got any questions, any concerns, give us a call tomorrow morning. We open at 9 a.m. again. Or come by in the morning, and myself or any of our technicians will be able to help you out first thing in that morning. So today we've got a lot of stuff we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking a good portion of this first segment. We're going to talk about getting your personal information off the internet. That's something that's just become a growing thing every day, robocalls, things like that. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about our trade-in program that we're doing at Refresh Computers at our store. We'll also talk about, a little bit about the new iPhones that might be coming up. We haven't heard or haven't seen the events quite yet come out with Apple, but there is some news and some speculation going on. We'll talk about that. And then we'll finish off the show today, just going over what you need to do with your phone before you get rid of it. Our phones, we live with them every day. There's a lot of stuff on them, so you got to make sure that before you dispose of it, it's not going to have anything linking to you, especially personal information. So let me get into some of that personal information that might be on the internet for you. Greg, let me ask you, have you ever Googled your own name before?
I have. It's some flattering, but some unflattering comments about my commentary on WDBO, but that's okay. That's okay. Right. Everybody can have an opinion.
And see, I've Googled myself as well. And you know what? Mostly what just comes up are the public accessible information right now.
And your Facebook page.
And my Facebook page. Always your Facebook page. That's the first thing that'll ever come up for. And it's becoming more and more normal now, I would say, for that information to be out there. You can find your home address, your age, your phone number, name of your relatives even. You could find a map to your own front door even on that.
It's true.
There's so much information out there sitting on websites that you've never signed up for. I know me personally, I like to use a website called Cyber Background Checks. I use this mostly for robocalls and spam calls that I get that just, I have my own personal rule that I'll let it ring if I don't know the number. And that's because if you don't leave a message, I look up the number. I just do. And it's just a little peace of mind for myself to try to figure out who's calling. And I'll tell you 9 times out of 10, it'll tell me the exact location of where that call's coming from. And I know I don't have any business going on there. I don't have any business going on halfway across the country. At least as far as I'm aware, I don't have any business over there. But the good news is you have the right to actually get a lot of that taken down. We'll go through, how to get that done. But before I get into that, Greg, I asked if you've ever Googled yourself before. What's the most surprising information you ever found about yourself out there?
So probably some old random clipping from a news article from my hometown that was archived on the web pages about something in middle school that I did.
Right.
Something random that you don't expect to really remember. And then all of a sudden it pops up right there in front of you on like page 3 of your Google results.
See, I had something personal actually that happened with me at my previous job before I worked with Refresh Computers. I actually had somebody come into this support chat that I was working, and they instantly started quoting my high school slogan, talking about how they graduated in the same class I graduated in and all of this stuff. But I could, in our program we used for that chat, I could see that they were located in Seattle, Washington. So, and it was a little creepy.
A little
unnerving just to have all of that thrown out in front of me. And, I did a Google search and, I found all of this information that was out there.
Yep.
And I took the steps to try to get a lot of it redacted and pulled back because me personally, that was a little unnerving, like you said. And it is unnerving, especially to think about, what can be out there. I know in one of our shows last week, I did mention that website, Have I Been Pwned? That will tell you if your email address has been within a recent data leak from a certain website. But there are a lot of websites that are legally giving this information out, and they're actually just live right now. You can use them. They're called data broker websites. And I'm going to throw a few names out there, such as Spokeo, White Pages, and Been Verified. Those are kind of the three big names, but there are dozens and dozens more of these websites. And the things with these data brokers is they are selling information, your information, just back and forth to one another to other data brokers so they can then have it on their website. And these data brokers get it from everywhere. You never handed them this information. You never had anything to do with any of these businesses, most likely. They are scraping it from public records, old accounts, store loyalty programs. They scrape from just other companies that package it up and sell it as a data block. That's how these data brokers get this. So, I would say any of our listeners right now, go into Google and type your own name into that search engine or any search engine, Bing, Yahoo. You'll probably find some stuff about yourself that's, it can be a little unsettling to see it's just sitting out there publicly.
What about asking AI about yourself?
Exactly. That's another part. AI has way more access, and I don't want to say way more access. It has faster access.
That's fast. It's the same, just faster access.
Exactly.
To what you have.
AI can troll through 10,000 of these websites and collect all of the information it wants to know about you, right down to probably even your blood type somewhere. Yep. Whereas you yourself, you can look through 4 or 5 of these and it'll make you queasy just seeing the information that's already in front of you on the internet. Now, I will say, a lot of us as everyday people, there is information out there that nobody's looking for. Nobody's looking for the exact address or phone number of Mr. Joe Schmo who's just living on his own, But again, it's the information that is out there. All it takes is just one person to look for that information, and suddenly now you've got a con artist that's equipped with way more information than your average spam caller has. It's kind of how this grandparent scam works as well. Someone calls pretending to be a family member in trouble. They could have gotten that phone number from public access. It's simple as that. And a lot of this data too, it fuels these robocalls and these spam texts because your number is constantly being sold in that data block, that information block that data brokers are just moving around. And, in the worst cases, and I mean that, in the worst cases, that can feed into identity theft. And, I've even seen cases of stalking before come out from this. It is something that, you kind of have to get a handle on and just see what's really out there about you. I know I have a lot of my customers that I've ran their website or their email through Have I Been Pwned, and they've had a couple breaches on some websites that they were signed up for. But not a lot of data broker information that's been out there. So you may have a lot of information out there. You may have none. That is something to think about. It's good just to be aware. Be aware of what information is out there, what information that they have about Greg, what they have about me, myself. And a lot of these do it just by default. They in their terms of service, and I'll say it out front and just plain as day for myself. Terms of services are something that I scroll through and I just agree to. Yep. I want to install the program. I want to create the account. I don't want to read through 70 pages of just the legal mumbo jumbo that terms of services are. And the problem is a lot of those terms of services do include clauses that just say, hey, you're allowed to sell my information.
That third-party services will have access to the information that you provide in this blah-de-blah-de-blah.
Exactly.
And that's all they need.
That's all it takes. And, a lot of data brokerages, a lot of collection agencies like that, tons of places, not even just data brokerage, tend to leverage our consumer ignorance on terms of services anymore, especially for our information now and how it's being sold like this. So, you just may sign up for an account one day, a couple weeks later, now you're just getting flooded with spam calls and you may not have any idea where that's coming from. It may just be that one account you set up with, that one company just sold that information to a data broker, and that data broker sold it, and it sold it again, and that's all it takes. It's a chain reaction. So here's something I would suggest doing. start with, the big ones. Look up your name, your email address, your phone number. Just look through that. Look through the main names that are data brokerages as well. Like I said, Been Verified, White Pages, Spokio. Look through that. You can actually go through and, if you find a listing, request its removal. And I don't know the legal ramifications of it, but when submitting this, it makes it feel like they have to take it down. And that's normally how they do act about it. They do also have options within your account to specifically say, do not sell my info or my privacy. So maybe it is something that when you first create an account, look through the settings, see if there is something in there that mentions, like Greg said, third-party access to your information. Please do not sell my info or my privacy. There has been some law changes recently that is starting to make this more of a requirement for places to have the ability to just one click and stop selling my information, unsubscribe me from your email listings, things like that. And just keep a simple list of the ones that you've done because they can slowly just repopulate over months. You may need to check back once or twice a year just to make sure that, that information hasn't re-upped itself to start being sold again. Some of these sites do, for example, have, terms of service updates. And that's like any other website, right? You go to a website, they say, our terms of service has changed, or an application on your phone. Please re-accept to this. Most of the time when you do that, you are re-accepting to have your data sold again. So you will have to go back and turn it off again. Something to be aware of. I know we've spoken previously about, the television functions that actually kind of sees what content you're watching and sells that as a data bit to all these brokerage. This is just another piece of that large pie. And Greg, it's a very large pie. Isn't it?
And that's how, so many of these companies, a lot of these advertisers and things like that, they are paying a lot of money to have access to all of this kind of information because they want to know where you're making your purchases, how often you're visiting these sites, what television shows you're watching. Right. Because that's how they allocate their money. That's how they try and get you to come back to them for whatever product it happens to be.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that they spend that money because it works.
It does work.
But there's got to be more transparency to it, I think, is the biggest concern.
I think so too. And, as a collective, I believe that us as people, not everybody, but the majority of people do just blindly accept the terms of services. It's something that is normal for our everyday lives. And let's face it, terms of services can be, and I said it sounding as a joke, but they can be 70 pages long sometimes. Yep. So information like that, I think, should be a little more easily found that you are agreeing to it, maybe be a checkbox or something, but getting off on my own little tangent there.
But I know you talked a little bit about, too, making it easier to, once you do sign up for these things, to be able to unsubscribe from them. There is a congressional act that's out there that they are trying to pass. It's called the Unsubscribe Act.
Okay.
And it's working its way through Congress, and there's a lot of support for it. But again, it's one of those things that Congress is always more or less trying to catch up on a lot of these things. This is something that's been going on rampantly for a long time, and now they're only just now trying to make a change to it. So don't always expect the law to be able to take care of this for you. You've got to be proactive about it too.
Exactly. And as technology advances and expands, it does the exact same thing in our lives, our information. So I want to go over 2 free things you can do right now really quick to just get yourself started. There's a website, donotcall.gov. It is a official federal site that puts you on our national do not call list. So just register your phone number out there, your wife's phone number, anybody that you have the permission of, put it on there. That cuts down legitimate telemarketing noise, and it works. It works beautifully. It worked for me very well.
Yep.
If you use Google, they have a tool called Results About You that can alert you if any of your contact info shows up in search results, helps you request removals as well. So search that phrase and switch it on. That's something that I think will really help to give you an idea. Is there a lot of information about you out there, or is it just, again, little Joe Schmo information that's not going to hurt at the end of the day? So we're getting to the end of this segment here. I know this was a detail-packed one, so go to our website, refreshcomputers.net. Click that podcast link to listen back to it. We'll have all of this summarized as well. The rest of the show will be summarized there too. Once we get back from the break, we're going to talk a little bit about our trade-in program at Refresh Computers.
You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to a Sunday edition of Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's News and Talk. I'm Greg Rhodes, sitting here with Adam Littlefield, a technician from the Refresh Computers Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computers Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline, 407-478-8200. And if you have a comment during the show, we'd love to hear it. Use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. And now, back to Adam.
Well, thank you, Greg. And again, thank you, everybody, for tuning into this Sunday edition of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. We did a lot of talking, and I mean a lot of talking, about our last segment. If you missed any of that, go to our website, refreshcomputers.net. There's tons of information from that last segment. Click the podcast link in the top right corner. You'll get all of that information about how to clean yourself up on the internet, all that information. In this segment, we're going to be going over just our nice little trade-in program we've got going on at Refresh Computers right now, something that's really helping the transition over to Windows 11 systems. Again, we've talked a lot about the transition from Windows 10 to Windows 11. Windows 10, they dropped support of that in October of 2025 last year. They did do extended security updates for that version of Windows 10. However, the systems that are running Windows 10 really are starting to show age now. A lot of them are still equipped with mechanical drives. So, there is no better time really to upgrade to a Windows 11 system. We've had this whole ebb and flow of the hardware shortages going on with AI, and at Refresh Computer, we've been offering really, really competitive prices on our systems. I know we've got some Windows 11 computers starting, I think, at the $300 mark. And that's the computer I would say 90% of computer users are really ever going to need. It's Windows 11, and you're going to use it for, maybe basic online use, basic emails, Word documents, Excel files, anything like that. All of our systems there that support Windows 11 are going to be capable of doing that.
And able to do that for years to come if it's
right.
Windows 11 compatible.
Exactly. Windows 11 is going to be here to stay. Windows 10 is not. That's why we've been starting to offer this trade-in program. We do offer a good amount of credit, I would say, towards the purchase of a new system. Our trade-in program, the way it works is we can do a one-for-one. So if you got a laptop, an older unit, you want to trade in, get a new unit, bring it by our store. We had to see it physically to be able to give kind of an estimate on our credit. But bring it in. We'll tell you if it's worth anything and put that credit towards the purchase of a new one. Knocks the price down. It's really the easiest way to upgrade and be a lot more affordable because those older units, when we take them, they're generally are going to be recycled because, again, they're locked into Windows 10. We, as our business, there's not really refurbishing we can do to try to get them to Windows 11, So with that, you are getting the device where it needs to go to be recycled, while also getting yourself a better computer as well. Something on Windows 11. Here's the part that matters the most, though. When you trade that device in to us, we make sure that your personal data is completely wiped. We do a full DoD grade wipe on the drive, so all of the data that's there, once it goes into our back room and it's plugged into our wipe server, that's it. That data is gone. So your photos, your passwords, accounts, all of that's going to be just wiped off of the computer. So you're not going to be walking out the door having to think where that's going to be in the world. If you were to throw it in the trash can, that goes out into a landfill. Some random person could be digging through trash one day and just find that laptop and, they'll hit the proverbial gold mine with that one.
Or even if you try and sell it yourself on like a Facebook marketplace or
right.
something like that. Removing that information is a key part of what you're doing with that.
Exactly. It's super important to know what's on it, what you have to get off of it. Personally selling as well, I'll tell you right now, a person you're selling something to on Facebook Marketplace, they're not going to go through and verify that all of your stuff was erased for the sake of your protection. They'll do it for the sake of their protection, that they're not buying a locked device or something. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. We have a really nice trade-in program at Refresh Computers right now. Again, there's no better time to be upgrading to Windows 11. We don't really know where the future is going with these hardware shortages. That's why I say it's an ebb and flow. Again, come by our store at Refresh Computers in Longwood. We are closed today, so if you've got any questions about this program before you come in, give us a call Monday morning at 9 a.m. We'll open up at 9 a.m., answer those calls for you, and give you an idea of where we can go from there. We're getting to another break now, so when we get back, we're going to be talking about the new iPhones and what we might be expecting out of that.
You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk, a Sunday edition of Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with Adam Littlefield, a technician from the Refresh Computers Superstore. And you can contact the Refresh Computers Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. Or if you have a comment during the show, go and use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. Don't forget to check out the website over at refreshcomputers.net, or you can always stop in at the Refresh Computers Superstore in Longwood at 820 East State Road 434, just 3.5 miles east of I-4. Store hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. And now for Adam Littlefield.
Well, thank you, Greg. And again, thank you everybody who's tuned into this episode so far of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers on this Sunday. If you've missed anything from the first two segments of this show, go to our website, refreshcomputers.net, click that podcast link in the top right corner. That's got a whole history of our shows going back years, tons of good content. It's really interesting to see going back and see how things have kind of progressed actually over these last couple years. You know, there was a lot of AI. There was a lot of AI talk. I remember, a year or so ago of trying not to do AI every single show. We had a really good stint of it, talked a lot about, new stuff coming out throughout the year. And now we've wrapped right around again to this year with Apple, with their event coming up. I believe it's supposed to be around September 9th is when they'll be doing this event. So this segment, we're going to be talking a lot about Apple, their new iPhones that are coming out. And I want to say that, there isn't too much official talk yet on these phones. A lot of this is just speculation, what word has been out there right now. A lot of speculatory stuff, but that's the exciting stuff about phones, right?
And which is something that Apple is kind of notorious for. They're pretty good about squashing any kind of leaks that come out of that little walled garden they've got going on.
They are. And that's a great point. They're good at plugging those leaks in their walled garden for, rumors. And this year, I don't know if this is just excitement, just people are speculating and guessing, or if there are some leaks about what Apple's coming out with. There's going to be the iPhone 18 Pro, the 18 Pro Max like normal. I'm not sure if they're going to be doing a regular iPhone 18 like they've done in the past versions, but this is the first ever year that they're supposed to be releasing a folding iPhone.
Yeah, which is really interesting because of just how all in Samsung went with the folding phones this year. They've actually already discontinued one of them, even though they just came out over the summer. So I think that's an interesting step. But Apple coming out with their first folding iPhone. I think that's going to be... That'll really give you the temperature of what the market is for these folding phones.
It will. And I think Apple has been watching Samsung very closely with their experimentation on these folding phones. I had the Samsung Galaxy Fold Z Fold 3 when I had my experience with it. I loved that phone. The crease bugged me. I know the newer ones now, the Fold 7 and the Fold 8, they don't really have as much of a noticeable crease as they used to. Apple, They've been notorious at letting other companies take that first step, right? That scary first step. That's what Amazon's done, or not Amazon, sorry, Samsung has done. And even so, like you mentioned, Greg, they've already canceled a line. That was the Galaxy Z Trifold.
The Trifold, right.
And I think Samsung, what they ended up seeing was there just wasn't a demand for it.
That was a giant device.
It was.
It folded from a traditional sized phone all the way out to like a large tablet.
Right.
And again, I don't really think that there's a need for that. But I do love that Samsung is always willing to take those risks.
Right.
But I also love on the other fact that Apple's willing to kind of take a step back and say, you know what? You guys go first.
You do it first.
If it's good, then maybe we'll have one too.
Exactly. And Samsung has a very large market. I know there are a lot of gamers overseas that exclusively use Samsung devices for gaming. That's what a lot of those larger fold devices are for. You unfold it, you've got a large screen you can play games on. Me personally, I watched YouTube on it all the time on that large inside screen. That was my thing, watching movies. That was absolutely great. Apple, they are finally looking maybe to start entering in that folding competition finally. And the interesting thing to me is I do remember reading one article about somebody talking about the folding iPhone a couple months ago that if Apple were to do it, which, it's seeming more like they're going to be using the same folding screen that Samsung uses.
Sure.
Their folding screen is going to be manufactured and produced by Samsung still. So their direct competitor will be providing them parts for it.
Which has been kind of what's happened with the iPhone for a very long time. I think what they they've been using Samsung Glass for a while for those devices. So it's the logical step. Somebody does something and makes it very well. Awesome. Put it inside my iPhone, and I will charge even more for it.
And the exciting thing is, cool. They're coming out with a folding phone, but we have been seeing this trend from this worldwide shortage of memory chips that, prices are rumored to climb like they just did on their other devices. So, you may be looking at maybe $100 to a few $100 extra on their devices. I don't even want to begin to try to spitball what the price of their folding device could be. Looking at Samsung's, I think theirs is this is an estimate. I think it's like $2,800 brand new from Samsung for the Z Fold.
For their like smaller size fold.
Yeah.
It was like a half size phone that folds out into a large regular phone.
Right. Yeah.
That one was, I think, $1,800.
Something like that.
And
yeah.
then the next level up was $2,100, and then the trifold I think was like $2,800 to $3,000.
Okay. I'm still thinking about the trifold then. I'm still there. Okay. So, that's kind of always been the thing with Apple though, right? Is their prices every year have gone up a couple hundred. We don't know what this shortage is going to tell right now. I know a couple shows back we did talk of I wouldn't say massive price hike, but there was a pretty substantial price hike on their Mac devices.
Sure.
So, seeing them do that, don't know what Apple's going to do yet. But again, they're still trying to stand on this stage. Nothing's official until this event is coming out. And even me, I'm not an Apple device user. I'm excited to see what they're going to bring out still, Seeing what Apple innovates with really just pushes every year a little further, because you've got all these different companies that are always in competition with one another, always trying to do something bigger, something better, right? So when Apple finally does their event, Apple is one of those ones that all these other companies kind of take a look at and go, all right, this is what we need to set our expectations for next year at this time.
Right. No, and I think that's a big step of it. And I think a lot of kind of what the expectations were going from the last event to this one was going to be the introduction of Siri powered by Google and their AI system. That still hasn't really manifested on Apple's side, and we're not hearing a lot of talk of it going into this upcoming event, right?
Well, that's an interesting point, and I agree. I feel like Apple's starting to take the Where's Waldo approach, but it's Where's Siri?
Yep.
Because that AI overhaul of Siri hasn't really been that forward recently. Yep. They talked a lot about it, about 6-8 months ago, and nothing but the proverbial radio silence.
Now, again, this could just be Apple being very good at plugging leaks and plugging those holes that we were talking about before. But usually, like I said, this was something that they've already introduced as what they wanted to do.
Right.
To build that hype going into the event, you'd think that they'd be talking about how much, because they got in a lot of trouble for talking about how the iPhone 17 was going to be AI powered, and that never manifested.
Oh, yeah.
They actually had to refund people's money because of that.
Yeah.
The iPhone 18, they have not had any talk about it being AI powered. So I think there's either a big surprise that's going to be coming, that they are going to introduce Siri AI the day of the event.
Yeah.
Or it's kaputs. I don't think there's any in between on that. It's either they're coming out with it now or it's done.
Yeah, and I think Apple's really holding that hand close to their chest now, because you hit it right on the nail there. They kept saying the 17 was going to be the AI powered phone, Siri was going to be overhauled, all of that. And Apple, playing this game of Uno, they just had to draw 25 cards because they spoke too soon. And that's all that happened. Now, here's an honest part that not a lot of stores are really going to bring up to you. If your current works fine, you're still allowed to keep it.
Yeah.
There's no reason to upgrade to this new iPhone that's coming out. You don't need to get this new folding iPhone just because you have an iPhone 17 and they're coming out with a new one. They still keep updates going, so the new phones may look nice. They may talk about more features, but again, if your phone already does everything you need, you don't need to upgrade. I know Apple devices, me personally, I give them a lifespan of about 6 years on their software updates. Sometimes Apple will push that envelope depending on the device, so it's not a hard rule, but 6 years is what my rule of thumb always has been.
And especially with the recent hardware issues,
right.
I wonder if they're going to have to push that envelope a little further. I mean, we've already talked about Windows pushing the Windows 10 deadline because of the issues that they've had with hardware upgrades for a lot of people and the price increases. Yeah. So I wonder if this might be that generation that you see it pushed a little bit further to the edge on that. I wonder how many really updates there will be for the iPhone 18 Pro and Max because of those hardware restrictions.
Exactly. And, not even talking about the hardware restrictions or the software at this point. Here's the major one that I'll tell you right now that probably half of our listeners have experienced: a battery that's dead by lunch, storage that's always full, you cracked your screen, or a phone that's even so old it tells you need to update your phone to run an app.
That's never good.
That's never good. That's actually what both of my parents just were going through. The app that my mom has to use for her job to be able to clock in and out kept saying, you need to upgrade your version of Android to update this app. And there were no more updates for that Samsung device.
Available.
Exactly. And Apple devices, same thing happens. So if your phone's in that type of realm where, battery's not as good, the screen's a mess, the body of it's just in pieces, if that applies, now may be a good time to start thinking about an upgrade. Now, again, here's a main thing also to think about. Do you need to get the newest model?
Yeah.
Say you're living through and you've still got an iPhone XS Max right now.
Oh my.
Let me throw that name out there. That
My.
was my last iPhone I had was the XS Max. Say you're still rocking that device. That battery is probably screaming. It is probably crying. You can probably turn the phone over and there'll be a tear that it'll shed. That phone, it's time to upgrade, but you don't need to go to the newest iPhone 18 Pro. You can easily find an iPhone 16 or an iPhone 17 even. And that will save you a ton of money because the prices are already down. Mm-hmm. Availability will pretty much be there because as a new phone comes out, those are out of stock instantly. And then, you also really don't get any of those early bugs that new phones tend to have. I know when I first got the Galaxy Z Fold 3, the Samsung folding phone years ago, there was a bug that if you opened an app or if you opened the phone while you had an app open and it didn't support it, the phone would just crash on me. It would just restart the whole phone. So early things like that, you don't want to pay couple $100 more to be a beta tester for that software. And that's the biggest thing with this is the new phones that are coming out, 99% of us don't need them. I like having, the newest device, but that's me. I'm a tech file, I love everything tech. I loved having the newest things. But, if you've listened to the show before, you've also heard me talk. That's why I've personally moved away from Apple. Because Apple almost feels like you are on a schedule that you have to upgrade every couple of years for your software support. Whereas with Samsung, it's kind of just up in the air. I've never reached the end of life on a Samsung device before I've personally traded it in. Whereas with Apple, my XS Max, when I traded that in, I think I was getting about 2 hours on a full battery charge.
Right. Now, I know that you recently upgraded because you were concerned with your Galaxy 23 Ultra that you had some battery issues going on with that. So it was time to make that upgrade. But that was quite a few years old device at that point. I'm still hanging on to my Galaxy S23 Ultra, and I'm still getting all the latest updates via
It's still
Android.
a good device.
It's still a really good device. So I mean, there's pros and cons to each side of the table, but there's a reason. There's a reason that I'm that green bubble inside your text chat.
Exactly. But, that's not always a bad thing. Again, at the end of the day, your phone is your personal preference. Our lives are driven by our phones. So me personally, I want a device that I like and that I work with every day. That Fold was fun. It was flashy. Didn't need it. Apple devices don't work for me. But again, Apple is still releasing these new phones every year because they are still making strides. And you mentioned AI-powered Siri, and I think that's going to be the number one thing I'm going to be looking out for September 9th for this event. I'm going to be looking to see what news is going on with Siri because it really is a Where's Waldo situation now. So again, this segment, there was a lot of information packed into this, talking a lot about Apple. So if you're an Apple user, if you have an iPhone, an iPad, or if you're just interested in what's going on in that tech world, the cell phone world, go to our website, refreshcomputers.net. Listen back to this segment if you tuned in the middle of it or any of the segments before. There's tons of information there that we'll also have summarized underneath, but just listen back because this is something I think that right now is no time better to think about the next phone you're going to get before you actually go to it.
If you've been listening and you're getting ready to make that upgrade to these new iPhone models, let us know why. Use that open mic feature inside the WDBO app. We'd love to hear what you've got going on. You've been listening to Tech Talk right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Hey there, and welcome back to Tech Talk here on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. I'm Greg Rhodes here with Adam Littlefield, a technician from the Refresh Computer Superstore. You can contact the Refresh Computer Superstore by calling their free tech support hotline at 407-478-8200. And don't forget to check out the website at refreshcomputers.net. And now, back to Adam.
Thank you, Greg. And I want to say again, thank you, everybody, for tuning into this Sunday edition of Tech Talk with Refresh Computers. You know, it's really nice being able to do two different shows, different topics, Saturday to Sunday. If you missed the Saturday show at all, we talked a ton through that show about, your Wi-Fi, your network. If you've got some network problems going on in your house right now, give that episode a listen. Go to our website, refreshcomputers.net, click the podcast link, and you can listen back to that show, today's show, the show from last week, a year ago. We've got tons of shows on that website that's going to just really give you a good feel of how things have been progressing over the last year or so and where we're at now.
We even got Adam to talk a little NFL football on Saturday episode. So.
Exactly. I'm not a sports person, so getting me to talk sports it's difficult, but I pulled it off.
We found a way.
Yeah. So this segment, I'm going to talk a little bit about what you should do with your old phone before you get rid of it. We talked last segment about Apple and their new iPhones, what could be coming up with that, and this segment's going to kind of be what you should be thinking about before you upgrade. So our phones, our lives run through them. We've got information galore on them that I'll tell you right now, if somebody stole my phone and it was unlocked, I want to use language that I can't use on the air of how badly of position I would be in. There is so much information, so many accounts that can just be gotten into through my phone. And a lot of our phones every day, it's the same thing. So before you go through to trade in your phone, sell it, recycle it, whatever you're going to do, back up your phone first. On Apple devices, you can use iCloud. On most Android devices, you can set up your Google account to set up Google Drive. Take a sync of your photos, text, maybe apps, save passwords. Go through, back all of that up first, because once you wipe this phone, you're not getting that stuff back. That's just how it is. Back it up to the cloud so your phone, whatever you're about to get rid of, has nothing that ties back to you. Once you do that, you got to sign out of your major accounts. And that being on iPhone, you need to sign out of your Apple account and turn off Find My. If you don't do both of those, that actually locks the next owner out from being able to use a lot of the functions of the phone. On an Android device, you'll need to remove your Google account from the phone. Again, that is something that can lock the phone up and stop somebody from being able to download apps, from being able to set stuff up, or, worse, they could start going through your Google account and start getting into your information. So remove that account from there. Once you do all of that, do a full factory reset. On iPhone, you'll go into the Settings app. There should be a general section there. Inside of General, you go to Transfer or Reset iPhone and click Erase All Content and Settings. That'll wipe the phone back to brand new, like you just first pulled it out of the box. On Androids, you're going to go to Settings. There's an option down at the bottom that says Reset. On some phones, it may say Device. You might want to click on that, and then there will be an option that says Reset. And then there should be a couple options, and the bottommost one will be Factory Data Reset. That will wipe it clean, be like new, like you just took it out of the box. And here's the major one that I will say actually more often than not I've been seeing has been missed from recycled devices I have, both laptops and phones, the SIM card. Your SIM card ties to your phone plan. If you don't pop that out, somebody else can put it in their phone, and now they're getting all your text messages. So pop out the SIM card. If you've got an older Android device that still supports a micro SD card, take that out too. That's a storage device that has your information. Some phone resets don't even wipe that memory card. I know a lot of newer Androids, they don't have them anymore, but if you're still rocking an old one with a memory card, I'm jealous of you because I really like the expandable memory.
RIP those memory cards.
Really, but make sure to take that out because that's got a lot of personal data. So that was a quick fire of some steps. We're going to have that detailed on our website as well at that podcast link underneath this show. Follow those steps if you are going to be upgrading or replacing your phone. Save yourself the trouble of having to go through and figure out what information you accidentally just threw out into the wild. So I think we're getting to the end of this show here. We're going to be getting back to you guys again next week on Saturday with another exciting show, and you'll be hearing from me again next week.